Another installment of Draft Physics, which is something like argue with the loony zealots for invisible fluffy stuff. Anyway, something like that anyway. Yes, no reason anywhere about. So anyway, I'll do some comments, but first a little bit of Holiday for the fun of it. Like I sort of promised, we'll do a little bit of Holiday till we get through this slop of his video. There we go. Alright, let's make sure we have volume.
He's like, no, he uses, yes, how have you got confidence since geometry? Well, why has he adapted his statements now to understand that general relativity is about geometric statements?
I don't know where I did that, but whatever. This whole geometry nonsense, as if the geometry isn't reflecting the inverse square law as stated before, and that's pretty much the foundation for all of it. It just is essentially a proportion. The further you go, the farther down you go. The further you go, the heavier you get. The further you go, it's just a proportion. And you think it has some sort of mystical power, as if this is some sort of deep thing. And it's just really explaining how you pour more gasoline, the fire's bigger. Wow, what a surprise. How complicated. Not.
Rather than, and it's not actually a force at all.
Alright, so that's, I mean, I was just going to stop there, but I'll play a tiny bit more. But right there, that's the, yeah, put the camera down. So isn't that the statement, right? Because that's essentially what all this is. I just got done pointing that out, in the sense that this was like the biggest mistake of Einstein, is this idea of, let's take this huge force and just take it out of the conversation about physics, because it's the bent space thing, and you can't use the bent space thing to explain anything else, because we all know that bent space doesn't make your bicycle go down the road. Bent space doesn't make something fall down probably not a good example. Anything falling down, anything going down an incline would be a bad example. But we know that force makes things happen. You have to put gasoline in the car, it has to burn the fuel, it has to create exhaust, it has to do all these things to create motion. And here we have this, bent space thing that is this motion engine. So you could almost say that, I'm surprised there isn't some sort of Tesla nut whose theory is that he can make a bent space gun. Because it's this source of energy, clearly. It's a counter energy, or whatever you want to call it. I mean, it clearly can do the opposite of what a lot of energy does. Right? The space shuttle has to do a lot of force. It has to create a ton of force to overcome gravity. And so it's this great anti-force function in the universe. And this is what these people, they're talking as if that makes sense somehow. That they really think it's not a force. They think gravity is just some sort of magical geometry thing, and I could just make a magical geometry gun. And we could just make magical geometry spaceships. And and so maybe that's what they believe. In the future Star Trek, that's what they'll talk about, is the bent space warp drive or something. No fuel required. You just create some bent space out of nothing, because the sun doesn't burn anything to create gravity. The earth doesn't burn anything to create gravity. It just does this I have mass thing. So you can just figure that, well, if it's a dumb, ignorant, universal mechanical system, it's probably easy to fool it. So why don't we just fool it into thinking I have 10 trillion solar masses, and then I can create a huge, giant, wormhole. It's of course it's a force. Of course. I should write that song. It's a force, of course, of course, of course, and it never was anything but a force, of course it was, it always was a force, a force, a force. It's a force! You stupid, ignorant person. I'm gonna play a tiny bit more. So this is some sort of, he's demonstrating how I'm uneducated, and he's defending the it's not a force theory. I mean, just understand, the planet Earth didn't get its speed. You know, the speed that's keeping it from not falling into the force. The counter force it has of its own velocity. It didn't get that speed from nowhere. Something had to blow up. Something had to be burned. Something had to create energy in a direction for the Earth to gain its velocity that's keeping it from falling into the sun. The force that's countering the force of gravity. It had to earn it. You people can't get that? That it's just... Of course they can't get it. Fuck. They're just so stupid.
It's me, Muggins here, continually telling him, with infinite patience.
Oh yeah, right. Telling him what? Telling him that you say it's not a force. And that's supposed to make sense to anybody rational. Every other thing that moves in the universe, a force has to make it move. But this special thing that happens, no force required, no energy required. You don't have to burn anything, you don't have to do it, you don't have to do anything. Just have mass and sit there, and all of a sudden magic happens. And that's your physics. That's your best smart person diagram of how the universe works. That everything does one thing, and this one special little thing does a special little thing that's completely different. Oh, yeah, enough. Oh, I've had infinite patience explaining to him how, you know, I like to stick my finger up my ass and then stick it in my nose. I mean, there's nothing for me to say, oh wow, that's just so brilliant. The geometry did it. I mean, it's so, you know, it's so deep and thoughtful, and, you know, of course the Invisible Man did it. And he can't see that. He can't see how blaming some silly geometry, when we don't blame silly geometry for anything else that happens. I mean, anything else. I throw this. You're not going to blame the geometry. You're going to blame my fucking arm. My fist hits your face. You're going to blame my arm, my brain, the whole thing that caused it. You're not going to sit there and say, the geometry did it. I mean, it's pathetic that they don't have a better argument than this slop. Alright. So I'll go back to where I was, somewhere similar to it anyway. So there was a second Gary Koch response. So I guess I'll read that one. I don't know. I probably stopped in the middle of something here. Terms as why he would bend exactly the same amount predicted by GR. Well, yeah, and I said go ahead and prove that. He'll outright deny that he has to, but if he finds another excuse, he'll use it. So another blanket, uncited, unquoted accusation. You know, nothing I've said. He's just misparaphrasing for the purpose of slander. If this doesn't show exactly what his mentality is, well, again, so you're showing what your mentality is, which is you don't have a counter argument to my theory. You don't have an answer to any of the challenges I've had to your explaining how the flaws in your theory, and so you got nothing but attack the messenger because you can't touch the message. Let's see. Anyway, and the deep space lens. Okay, yeah. So this is where he said, and the deep space lensing photos are blatantly obvious. I have a hard time believing anyone can deny it. And so I went through the whole, just even part of the explanation. So here's an irony. They're all obsessed about mathematics a few months ago. And, oh, where's the math? 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 And here, they're just say, fuck the math. It looks pretty. It looks like it works. Yeah, so what? The math doesn't work? Okay, it doesn't matter. We don't need that. I mean, their hypocrisy is just blatant. Who cares? Math's math. Double slit width, who cares? We don't need that math. That math doesn't have to be precise. We just make it up. It looks right. Yeah. That's all that matters. I mean, they're just so obviously hypocrites. You can see galaxies and stars being warped with your naked eye. In insanely crazy places. And so, but that's okay. Fuck the math. You don't even have to look at the data to see what's going on. That's right. You don't have to pay any attention to what Einstein actually said. Just lie about him too. Just put his name on shit that he wouldn't agree with. Go ahead. We're validated Einstein. Well, not what he said. The words we've put in his mouth. And these people are talking like they have some kind of integrity. That they give a shit about a fact. When they'll sit there and put words even in Einstein's mouth. That's how little respect they have for their own icons. They don't even have any respect for the icons of their own babble. And because they'll commit all kinds of crimes against their icons by strawmanning them for their purposes, lying about what they've said or what they believed. Alright, so the same asshole. How exactly is accepting real-world evidence and data, again the data, being like a religious zealot? Well, I've already pointed out how you're a religious zealot in that you resort to preposterous exaggerations, faked evidence, insane conclusions like, would there be so many witnesses to God's miracles if God wasn't doing miracles, or some kind of crap like that, completely fallacious logic. That's what makes you a religious zealot. You're the one denying evidence like a religious person denies evolution and carbon dating, not me. So again, he's associating the rejection as proof of anything, of lensing images that are named after Einstein that don't match Einstein's own theory, that don't match Einstein's math, as being denying evidence. Oh yeah, that's a fair person. Let's see. You're the one rejecting evidence in favor of something you believe is right. Well, again, let's point out, I'm not rejecting evidence, I'm debunking conclusions. And big difference. And exaggerations and preposterous extrapolations, way over anthropomorphizing of functions in preposterous ways. What's a good word for that kind of exaggeration? Well, anyway, and I'm not doing it in favor of something I believe. I'm doing it to point out how everything I've argued is, in my opinion, a fair, rational person can understand. One that isn't biased by the fact that, well, he got elected president, so he must be smart. Or one who's not fooled by the fact that, well, he's rich, he must have earned it. One who's not that dumb. So a person who doesn't think science necessarily has the right answer, or one who isn't convinced in some way that they have a whole system in science of checks and balances so they could never get way out of balance, get caught up in some sort of silly mistakes. Like, even though we know historically they've done that. They put the wrong head on the brontosaurus. Lots of mistakes can happen. So a fair person who isn't biased, I'm just arguing that yes, my theory fits the evidence, and it does it in a way that unifies and simplifies, which are two really big positives. So unless you've got some substantial reason to say, oh, it can't have happened that way, it's a very competitive theory. And that's the truth of it. And you're the ones contending it's somehow not. So let's understand, you're the ones saying it's worthy of rejection on its face. You don't even want to discuss it because you think you've already proven something. And then you show your evidence, and your evidence is obviously not to the standard of what proof should mean. It's not even close. It's incredibly weak and circumstantial evidence. And you're just yelling, convict, 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 it's convict, convict. Because you have the passion problem. So like I said, my theory is not dependent on many of these things I'm arguing being true. Like I said, if photons are special, and they get moved by gravity by some special reason, that doesn't hurt my theory in any substantial way beyond saying, gee, that's curious. I mean, why aren't any of the other forces, likewise influenced? Anyway, believe is right because it feels right to you. So again, this accusation has something to do with feeling. No, it has to do with logic. And so it seemed logical to you that when faced with the curiosity of the two-slit phenomenon and the single-slit phenomenon, that it's logical from your perspective to talk about the special powers the simplest object we know in the universe to have. So something that, even Feynman would say, goes from point A to point B in a straight line, at a constant speed. That thing all of a sudden has radar and can do all kinds of, calculations and do all kinds of geometry, to figure out where it's supposed to go. Anyway, I did think of something too on that whole, with the whole diffraction subject. Well, we'll get to that because there's a comment on that, so eventually I should get to that, hopefully. Hopefully we'll get there. Anyway. Let's see. Something you believe is right because it feels right to you. So again, not based on any actual evidence. So again, he says it's not actual evidence to create a model that completely conforms to every bit of evidence. To let's say 98% of the known experiments conducted in physics. That's not evidence of a good theory. 98% conformance. I mean, and you're an honest person? No, you're a dishonest person. And you don't think it requires evidence beyond you making assertions. So again, it's just the same accusation again. Beyond making assertions, oh, you mean beyond, like, you're not going to count the fact that I've diagrammed it and created a mechanical model. That doesn't mean anything. Oh, of course not. You don't actually have one for magnetism. One of the most important. You don't even have one for gravity, for fuck's sake. All you have is your geometry. You don't have any mechanism that makes your geometry real. Let's see. We should just have faith in it, right? Well, that's exactly what you're saying. There's nothing else to have in your theory. The faith in the virtual photon, faith in the dark matter magic, faith in the Huygens infinite waves. So he says, my metaphor is completely backwards. And again, there's no arguing this. We're done. Yes, I'm just going to block you because you're not arguing physics. You're just arguing my right to make an argument and you can just slander it. Well, fuck you. I mean, I can't state it any clearer. I mean, compared to Tons, your bent space is an invisible man. You're the one with the leprechaun theory. Again, all the other forces, all the other movement in the universe, nothing else can move in the universe without you accounting for the energy, except gravity. Oh, it's the magic force. It's Mr. Geometry at work. No energy required. Alright, let's see, I don't know if I've already read the first comment in this thread, but we'll just see how it goes. So this is Michael Farrell. I don't really believe that any of us has all the answers to the majesty of the universe. I mean, there's nothing majestic about the universe. I mean, it just, so your premise, I think it's a false premise. Um, Again, even Feynman conceded the answer just might be it's as simple as a checkerboard. It's just that it's a huge checkerboard and a ton of checkers, so it's really hard to see the underlying pattern because all you see is the big swamps of checkers moving around. You see the big patterns, you don't see the little pattern. But it's really dirt simple. So whatever that crap is. Alright, fine. You don't really believe that the universe can be understood. I do. But the fact that you are ruffling so many feathers makes me feel you are probably more on the right track than most of the mainstream models that we are force-fed. That's probably not a great reason to believe in something is because other people's feathers are ruffled. Clearly it's evidence that they don't have an argument, which means, clearly we could both be full of shit, but it clearly indicates that they're full of shit because they're not making arguments. They're just making insults. So the fact that they don't have anything but insults to throw kind of indicates there's no depth to their understanding. And, as I've pointed out, their hypocrisy is so obvious, right? On one subject, they're fanatics about math. You can't lose a single decimal point anywhere. And then the next minute they say, it looks like lensing. Who cares about math? Math's math. I don't need that math shit. Look, it looks pretty. I mean, it's just obvious. The hypocrisy. Society has got to a stage in believing its own inflated intelligence and importance. I don't think that's a society problem, to tell you the truth. I mean, clearly the people end up being the talking heads, the controllers, the chieftains. Probably don't deserve their position because it's all about money and prestige and who you know and a bunch of bullshit. So yes, it's a corrupt system. The hierarchy isn't earned. If we take a step back from our position of arrogance and consider what we observe and reflect on the fact that I think it has more to do with bigots than it has to do with a lack of ability to see. People can see the truth. They don't want to hear the truth. That we observe and reflect on the fact that misinterpretation and mistakes have been made. We may make more progress than we are doing. This sentence is about 4 paragraphs long. Look at LIGO. Under the guise of looking for gravitational waves, nobody gives it a second thought, but in reality it's just a large version of a 130-year-old Michelson-Morley experiment, which is still being conducted to present day. And this is progress. Well, there certainly is a progress to it in the sense that the lasers in a vacuum tube is lots of improvement. But whatever. Like I said, the idea of their contriving a signal to look at for and then finding it is kind of not the way science is supposed to be. You're not supposed to make up what you're looking for and then create a ton of data and then so much data that it's almost inevitable that you'll find what you're looking for. I mean, it's like having puzzle pieces that you're making to fit into the photograph. It's not really finding the pieces; it's just making them. So anyway, and this is, I'm not entirely sure what your theories are, my friend. Well, that kind of rhetoric is kind of a turn off, my friend. As soon as somebody starts calling you my friend, that might be calling you boy, dude. Yeah, sorry, I don't, homie, don't play that, dude. But I'm guessing they challenge the very fabric of the set in stone dogma we are led to believe. Keep up the great work. In the world of description, the truth doesn't want to be heard. But that said, the truth needs to be heard, and ultimately the truth will out. Well, I guess you mean will win out. Well, thank you for the positive encouragement. I'm just not sure it's motivated by the right attitude. It's not about them being wrong. It's about me being right. You know, and I know the argument is dominated by, you know, having to demonstrate them wrong, because they won't just recognize, oh yeah, that's just so much more logical. It is a push force. It's just so simple. Push force. Oh, the same force does magnetism and the nuclear forces. Of course, it's a force, of course. Why are we doing all this intercourse? Of course, it doesn't need to be all this force of, no, it's easy. Says Mr. Ed. Yeah, Wilbur, just get a grip. It's not that complicated. Anyway, so then Gary Koch says, yes, because we all know that ruffling feathers means you're on the right track. So again, I agree that that's not really the right reason. But the fact that you don't have an argument is evidence of your weakness. You're not arguing from positions of strength. You look like defensive religious kooks, you know, who have to start, you know, protesting in front of abortion clinics because too many people are having promiscuous sex. You don't give a shit about the fetuses. You don't give a shit about the poor people they end up growing into. You just have to protest sex. Yeah, I get you. I see you. Weasel. For some reason. You can be talking complete shit, but as long as you have people trying to correct you, you're totally the one that's in the right by default. No, again, he's pointing out that you are exaggerating. You are lying. You are using preposterously inappropriate comparisons. You know, it's like the Hitler card or something. You know, somebody's a shoplifter, and then you start reciting from, you know, Mein Kampf or something. You know, your excesses are evidence of your desperation. Yes. Makes total sense, and by so many you realize that there may be 20 or 30 people max who comment on these videos, really taking the world by storm. Yes, but they're a reflection. I'm sure, I mean, just as the other message board where I just posted the innocent comment, does somebody want to talk about mistakes that might have been made in the axioms created in particle physics? And they won't even have the conversation. So, I mean, the fact that you people are fanatic and that you don't want to hear, okay, that maybe mistakes were made, is pretty obvious. And that the 20 and 30, or the 5 and 10 that might be on this message board, are probably a reflection. And that if I actually do get to a real physicist someday, he might behave just as much like a little girl with wet panties. Alright. Gary Koch. Okay, so this is the Michael Farrell guy. If this guy is talking complete shit, as you put it, I am bemused as to why you waste your time viewing his material and take time out to comment on his views. Opinions are like assholes. We all have them. Well, again, that's another pointless kind of thing to say, because of course, yes, we all have opinions, but the whole point of intelligence is to weigh their credibility and to do this whole cream rise to the top kind of thing, to do this whole measuring and qualifying and logic thing, you know, to be good lawyers and to be good judges. That's our obligation here. If you're found to be a bigot, a crooked judge, then, you lose credibility and you shouldn't be judging. And that's what these people, in my opinion, are. You're a crooked judge, if you're going to sit there and lie about the defendant. Anyway. And whether or not they are correct, we are all entitled to our own opinions. Well, again, I don't think you're entitled to be an asshole. So, in my opinion, I wouldn't say being an asshole is legal. I'd say no. We should have real incentives and disincentives, and there should be real disincentives about being an ignorant asshole. Having stupid, retarded opinions should get you shit on a bit. And if we all had the same ones, the world would be a very dull place. Well, that's just, it's really stupid. Oh yeah, it'd be so sucky not to have World War II. It would be really cool not to have to argue about obvious crap. It'd be really great not to have an argument every single time because some fucking zealot fanatic for his own little fucking weirdo tradition can't get a grip and grow the fuck up. And like I said, you can see it in religious kooks, and these are just the same kind of zealots. They don't even believe in God. They just believe in religion. They think the ignorant people need to be controlled by morals from God. But I'm too smart to fall for that. And so, yeah, of course I sleep with hookers. Because I don't believe in God. I just believe in preaching it. These people don't know the physics. They just believe it. This is, yeah, sure. Smart people are smart. Smart people don't make mistakes. Something like that. Just like the rich people all earned it. Even though it's obvious most of them inherited it and they didn't earn any of it. It really is. Just, these people really are really fucking dumb. Anyway. So, but fuck that shit. There's entitlements to being stupid. I don't think people are entitled to stupidity. And if we all had the same ones, then that whole dull thing, yeah, fuck that. That's nonsense. Science, as I understand it, is about questioning. No, it's about answering questions. It's not about questioning. It's about answering questions. Science is the same as philosophy. See, philosophy takes care of things non-physical, and physics, science, takes care of the things that are physical. And somehow they fuck the two up royally. Because they got a whole bunch of, peanut butter in their chocolate. And it don't turn into a good thing. Yeah, it's not a good thing. It's a foul thing. Anyway. Let's see. Science, as I understand it, is about questioning, and despite what we have learned, there are still many questions that science cannot answer. So there's all this mystery. I'm saying now it's not all that mysterious. Mysterious? We have so many answers, and most of them are, you're just a bug. Get over yourself, douchebag. This isn't really. We have answers to every important question, frankly. And is it so wrong to try to solve some of those questions, despite educational backgrounds? We have all just people who possess the power of thought. So, look, education matters. You have to have knowledge. I wouldn't be able to have a functional conversation about this stuff unless I had spent years in it. I mean, I didn't just learn physics. I did physics. I mean, Jesus. I was really good, okay, as a kid at breaking stuff. So I spent lots of time trying to fix stuff. And you learn a lot doing that. Anyway. Power of thought. And it's really no crime to put thoughts out there, whether they be correct or incorrect. I mean, this is, I mean, I don't mean any offense, but I mean, this is such tripe, There's no harm in making noises when we're trying to do constructive conversation. It's almost like saying hecklers aren't a harm or something. No, noise sucks. Wasted conversation sucks. Those are horrible things. So yeah, if there's somebody talking complete shit, people should nail them and just say, that's complete shit. Let's not waste time on complete fucking shit like flat earth theory or something. It's shit. I mean, you have to be able to tell the difference, and I'm just saying that I think the difference is, yes, if you have a unification theory and it doesn't rely on some kind of vacuous statement like, the hyperboloids did it, or it's all electrification. Electrification makes everything electrificated. Now, if that's the extent of the theory, yeah, you say, okay, we get it. You don't get the process. The process is to have actual puzzle pieces, not to just sit there and spit your gum on the puzzle and just smush it in. You know, you can't just take like silly putty and just smash it in and make it fit all the pieces. I mean, that's just silly. You have to actually put the pieces that are the real evidence in the world and connect it with actual diagrams that show how the pieces fit together. Okay, anyway, I'm sorry. I mean, I really, you're sort of on my side, but like I said, you're sort of on my side for the wrong reasons. I want people to be on my side for the right reason, because you get it, not because you think I have some right to be an idiot. I don't think I have a right to be an idiot. If I'm being stupid or idiotic, I think I should be squashed. The point is they can't even come close to providing one piece of evidence of how I'm an idiot. Not even one good little piece of evidence. Alright. Anyway, so where was I? Educational backgrounds, we did that part. Correct or incorrect? And like I said, there are a few people taking notice of what you consider to be a crackpot spouting out twaddle, so it's not really a concern to you. I don't know what he's saying there. Just let people form their own opinions on the subject matter. Well, that's also stupid. Why, if you think somebody's lying and telling people lies, you should point out how there's a liar telling people lies. Nothing wrong with doing that. Yeah, so we don't agree on much, Michael. But thanks. Falwell is not a very good name, I gotta tell you. Fowell? Well, it's Fowell, okay. Gary Koch again. I asked myself that question, but the truth is I've watched Eminem for 10 years and always liked his philosophy to a certain degree. To see him fall so far off the edge when it comes to physics. So again, I fell off the edge by coming up with a brilliantly simple unification theory. I mean, a unification theory that no one's ever going to come up with one that's simpler. It's so simple. It's impossible because there's just not enough moving part. It really has the minimum number, like 3 moving parts. It's so minimalistic. And for that reason, you got to say, wow. And the fact that it actually unifies. It actually does explain how gravity and magnetism are the same force. And then it explains how magnetism and electricity is the same force, and how what motivates or moves electrons and protons is the same force. It does all that, and this asshole just talks this shit. I'm fall off some sort of edge. I mean, I just don't know how you can possibly justify that insanely stupid comment. I mean, how can you justify saying that? If anyone else had proposed this theory, like I said, if Richard Feynman had proposed it, how would you have argued Richard Feynman? Would you just said, oh, he's fallen off some edge somewhere? Or would you have to have actually come up with some kind of evidence of how he's wrong? How it doesn't fit, how it doesn't work? You haven't done any of that. Amazing. To see him exhibit crackpot behavior, and again, no quotes, no evidence of the crack. I'm a crackpot because, I think the lensing images should actually be coherent to the mathematical model that predicted them. You're claiming it's evidence of the prediction, and it doesn't fit the mathematical model of the prediction. And so I'm a crackpot because I think there should be a correlation between the math that predicted something and the something. Ooh, ha, what a lunatic. is something that is depressing. Oh, you know, I can't even put words to, you know, what a revolting circumstance I find myself in on this planet with you fucking pieces of shit. You lying, scummy, weaselly cheaters. You can't fight a fair fight to save your fucking life. You know, to save your kid's life, you probably couldn't do it. You're just so fucking compulsively cheat-y. Cheat, cheat, cheat. I'd like to remedy it. With what? Cheaty glue? Pointless, however. Also, science is about asking questions. He says dot dot dot. You know, I don't even know, you know. He didn't put in quotes. Also, science is about asking questions, dot dot dot. Then formulating theories. So somehow it is about asking questions. And like I said, it's about answering questions. It isn't about asking questions. It's about answering questions. Then formulating theories that can make predictions. So again, he keeps saying predictions are somehow much more important than fitting the evidence. So, like I said, no point for Darwin to have a theory of evolution because he wasn't going to predict anything. There was no predictive value to come out of it, so it's not good science. And again, I have made predictions, but it doesn't matter, right? They're not going to pay any attention to those. I predict you will never have a human being go half the speed of light and be alive. That's one of my predictions. Let's see. Just such a disgusting little troll. Science is about asking questions, then formulating theories that can make predictions that can then be verified with data. Well, again, you mean conform to evidence. All the theory has to do is conform to the evidence without contradiction, just like any logical process. And so if the only thing my theory is in contradiction with is the weakest fringe theories of your physics, the ones you have the least amount of evidence for, are the only places where, yes, there might be some conflict, like spooky action at a distance. That's right, my theory predicts there isn't any such fucking bullshit. That's right. But you don't have any evidence of any such bullshit. So it's not a threat because your evidence is shit on that subject. Let's see. Emendum skipped the data. So again, just such a fucking outrageous lie. There's no obligation to do anything but conform to data. Conform to the inverse square law. Conform to Maxwell's equations on magnetism and electricity. I don't have any other obligation, you insane asshole. You have an insanely stupid understanding of what the obligation of a model maker is. The obligation is to make a model that duplicates the function of the mechanism. That's conforms to what the evidence suggests it does. That's it, and provides you with a like a schematic of an engine. Provides you with a theory of pistons going in and out and gas explosions and this and that, and you can say, oh yes, that's what's happening in the car. That's the obligation. Whack job. Anyway. Emendum is skipping the data and verification part. Right? Again, no, I've completed that process, and you're the one without any ability to prove or demonstrate any lack of consistency with the evidence. And without that, science is not science. So again, this is his preaching. If I don't have angels in my theory, you can't have a theory. We're God botherers, and you have to have a God to have a theory. We only deal in God theories. Rejecting okay, so another lie. Yeah, you really are blocked. I'm just so sick of this shit. Rejecting evidence. Again, what evidence did I reject? I rejected your fucking preposterous accusation that you've proven lensing, okay, by ignoring mathematics. In favor of a theory of science. The end. Yeah, well, the end for you. Well, I might as well read the last one by the Michael Falwell guy. Oh dear, it's a little bit long. Uh, Being a long-time follower, I can see why you feel that way now. I'm a newbie, only come across his videos about a week ago, but I find his views pretty thought-provoking and interesting. Whatever. I suppose with time we all change, it's inevitable, but perhaps he is just coming from a stance of some of the mainstream science that do seem to do exactly the same. He is not really sustaining theories, but classing them by facts, and if you can't beat them, join them in the same lunacy. It's probably a way to prove his point. No, the way to prove my point is to demonstrate, as I have, the bad science being done, in the sense of the inaccurate descriptions of things like the two-slit experiment, and then the inaccuracy of like the conversation about possibilities of gravitational lensing, where they have perverted Einstein's prediction into preposterous examples of lensing that Einstein would, if he was alive, Einstein would say you can't do that, and they do it anyway. I agree in your definition of science, though. Well, and I disagree with both of you. You're idiots. That should be the correct path, but in some cases I think this is just impossible to verify certain details. Again, what is so impossible to verify? I have a theory that matches the inverse square law and everything else observed, and even explains the induction process that's actually in Einstein's field equations in the tensor. So I'm actually giving you a physical model that accurately describes the energy transfers that create gravity. It's verifiable, idiot. It's not some sort of ambiguous thing that you can't understand. And then I show you how those very same particles, when polarized, create magnetism. There's nothing mushy here. You either logically understand how, yes, I can see how that mechanism conforms to the existing evidence. And it does. It's amazing. Anyway, so that was a little bit mushy. Let's see. In not really sustaining theories, but classifying them as facts. If you can't beat them, join them. Let's see. I agree with your definitions of science, though. That should be the correct path. In some cases, I think this is just impossible to verify certain details. Well, again, it's just bullshit. And for this, I mean, it's easy to verify the mathematics of lensing and to say whether a lensed object is fitting the gravitational requirements. That's really easy to do. And for this theory to do arise, I don't know what that is, and for this theories do arise and sometimes become quite rooted without relevant info to back them up. Then what does that have to do with me? Nothing. Science does feel a great need to qualify and measure everything, but nature doesn't necessarily work in that matter. Well, I guess that's just another useless, mushy statement. Like, nature's mysterious. And no, there's little tiny things that happen that are weird. Like the double slit experiment. It's weird. But it's when we get the real answer, you're going to be like, oh man, how were people fooled by that bad trick? It's as bad as the magician with the pigeon up his sleeve. Yes, it's very impressive when he does blah blah and the pigeon flies out. But if you actually saw the poor little bird smashed into a little pouch in his fucking sleeve, you'd be like, nah, that sucks. What are you doing that to that poor bird for? For this stupid trick. It's not going to look like any kind of, it's going to look bad. It's going to look very bad. Okay, for you people to talk about how it was all so mysterious when we find out, no, it's not mysterious at all. It's like the truth about disease or something. You know, yeah, the ancients thought that the weather was out to get them and the diseases were coming because they, you know, I sweared or I did something wrong and now God's punishing me. No, it was bacteria. And you could just you could see it grow right there in front of you. Know that that's what you were doing wrong. You're letting the bacteria grow. It was really obvious. It was really simple. It wasn't a complex answer. It was a simple answer. Anyway. I think it's impossible to verify certain details, and for us, these theories do arise that sometimes become quite rooted without the relevant info to back them up. Whatever. Science does feel a great need to qualify and measure everything, but nature doesn't necessarily work in that manner. I am a master wheel builder. Oh shit, of 25 years. So he's been, you know, blacksmithing. I mean, living in a tradition. Anyway, I use mathematical equations to work out the length of spoke required. Then I lace the wheel up. I must add that I am also blind. Well, that's really impressive. So, sorry about that. Blind is, wow. But yeah, I'm just saying, wow. If I was blind, I'd just be throwing poo all day. I really can't imagine what else I could come up with. So, bravo. Anyway, the whole building I mean, even your text is, written quite well. I mean, I'm sorry about the run-on sentence thing. I understand now. It's like text-to-speech or something. But really good work. Anyway, the whole building process from that point on, this is done by the sense of touch and feel. No tension meters involved. Just go with the flow, which I did use to anger my boss, as he was an engineer and insisted on measurements. He didn't understand that some things are just intuitive. Well, it's true. I wouldn't understand that either, frankly. But I mean, the fact that some blind guy has really good touch, I would sort of respect that. In 25 years, I've never built a bad wheel, and maybe that's just how some aspects of nature can be mysterious and elusive. Yeah, well, I don't really go for any of that mysterious and elusive shit, but it's really just the fault of our bullshit again. The blindness of the garbage in. If you get the garbage out, the rest is so visible, and there's just garbage notions. And I'm going to argue that bent space was a garbage notion. I mean, a very interesting little trick, but it was garbage science. The invisible man force. Anyway, so, well, I learned something. So anyway, some idiot, some dolphin guy, so I'll get rid of him. 4 comments, I think, on one video. Well, two on two different videos. So you don't believe Tesla that smart? Yeah, that's right. I don't believe Tesla that smart. Well, too bad. It's supposed to be 200. He was. You can call me a nut all you want. Yes, okay, fine. That's what I'll do. Nutty, nutter, nuttiest, nuttard. Yes, you're a nuttard. And Edison was a chemist, by the way. It wasn't even that, but Edison was the most self-taught kind of person, from that kind of world. I wish you could debate me. Well, I think I could, but you're a dolphin, and dolphins kind of don't really speak good enough English yet, because I would utterly destroy you. So what, do you make videos? Campbell Hayden's. See, debate is easy. You see, if you wanted to debate somebody, you watch my video, and you can play it even, and then you debate what I'm saying. And then I can counter-argue your argument. That's how it can work. Apparently nobody can handle that, but that's how it can actually work. You don't need some special debate permit. Yeah. No, he just has liked videos. And he likes fat people. Anyway, it's okay, I guess. we'll delete his comment because it's retarded. So we won't bother blocking. We'll just delete this crap after I read it. You do know Einstein did say Tesla was smarter than him. No, he didn't. He made a joke. Okay, a reporter came up to him and said to Einstein, "What's it like being the smartest man in the world?" And Einstein joked, because he was kind of insulted to be asked this stupid question, because Einstein was more humble than that. And so he said, "Why are you asking me? Why don't you ask Mr. Tesla?" Because Tesla was talking like he was the smartest man in the world. See? So you can't even get that fact right. Einstein didn't think much of Tesla. Okay? And because Tesla was a little turdy shit talker. And it's just the truth. You must be stupid because Tesla was a legal immigrant. What? Tesla was smarter than him. You must be stupid because Tesla was a legal immigrant. What is that? Doesn't make any sense at all. Yeah, the joke is that Edison is the one that got Tesla to America. And yet Tesla stabbed Edison in the back. So you believe Stephen Hawking is a genius or Einstein? Well, they aren't. So I don't know where you got that from, lying dolphin guy. But that's just a lie. I mean, I have nothing too terribly great to say about Stephen Hawking's physics. As a man, I gotta applaud. Gutsy performance. I mean, holy fucking shit. Again, if I was in his circumstance, all I'd be able to do is, I wouldn't be able to throw poo even. I'd drool it on people though. I'd do something. So, I mean, but yeah, I think his physics is shit. And like I said, I think Einstein was really smart. And what he developed was an interesting gimmick. But it's just a gimmick. It's not the answer. It's not the right answer. Okay, so last one. Tesla said quantum physics would go to oblivion. Well, the idea of a quantum isn't going anywhere, and the thing that got oblivioned, even while Tesla was alive, was the idiotic notion that you can somehow manipulate the ether thingy, field, and gain special access to super energy or something. Like you can get a free ticket, free pass, and you don't have to pay tolls anymore. Some kind of bullshit like that. Free energy. Yeah, Tesla was an idiot. Alright, there, I did say Tesla was an idiot. But he provoked me into saying it. I don't just say Tesla was an idiot for no reason. Somebody has to provoke me into it by doing some kind of Tesla worship. Alright, question mark. Another guy just has used up his passes here. You couldn't even get past basic level physics. Well, you want to have a contest for like some real money? Whether you can? Yeah. Yet you are lecturing others on the subject. Well, just, yeah, it's the way it turns out. I mean, it's not my fault that you've been silly as thinking people. And I have to point it out to you. Well, you've been silly. Sorry, but you just have. You never cite any evidence except the conformity to all the evidence. I cite the inverse square law and Maxwell's equations. And you could even go into all the really complex math that involves the interactions between the strong and the weak interactions. And I'll say that my theory conforms to those things very well. So that's evidence, idiot. You just expect us to buy this bullshit. No, I expect you to fairly evaluate the arguments. Now, the first argument, the simplest argument is that if you're going to figure out why something moves, well, there's two ways to look at why it's moving. Was it pushed, or did something pull it? And logically, you can say push is the real easy thing to understand. It's a real easy physical mechanism. But pull is a complex one. And so maybe answers should avoid getting lost in a bunch of pull mechanisms and just see if they can find the push first. See if you can find somebody who poked somebody and they fell off the building. That would be a lot smarter than trying to think about, well, maybe the Invisible Man had a hovercraft and he pulled the woman off the building. Yeah. See? Idiot. Alright. You never say, you just expect us to buy this bullshit. So again, what I'm expecting is a fair evaluation of the evidence, and I don't think you're capable of fair evaluations. An inbred child, so what does this have to do with anything, right? That's sort of like the beginning of a sentence where you know, well, this guy didn't get past high school. You know, an inbred child has a more complex and mature understanding of physics than you. Like, that's supposed to be an impressive slander not only against inbred children, but me. Yeah, well, it's not very impressive. You certainly didn't demonstrate your intelligence with that comment. So, question mark. Again, no sources cited in the description. What sources do you need sources for? Maxwell's equations. They were made by Maxwell. That's the source. Isaac Newton. Look him up. Kind of famous. Just your broken and incomprehensible website. That's what it says. Website. So again, somehow, you know, describing the mechanism, drawing a picture of, look, this is a kinetic interaction. Two things come in, two things leave. That's not the proper way to explain something, is with illustrations. Oh, my bad. I was supposed to just write tripe like this. Question mark is so brilliant, such a cool guy. Oh, I just so much want to suck on his foreskin. No, I really don't. You really do treat science like philosophy. Well, you don't even understand that whether you call it philosophy or you call it science, the objective is to get the right answer, asshole. And you guys seem like you're not at all interested in the truth. You're just interested in your little fables. As if it's open to interpretation. So science, evidence isn't open to interpretation. There's no other explanation but the one you provide. You'll tell us what it is. It's lensing. So what? It doesn't match the math. What does that have to do? What does math have to do with it? And you can just manipulate